I'm Insomniac, and this is the Orient Union. First of all, I want to give Steve a big shout out for lending me this watch to review. For those of you who saw my last review on that weird Russian watch, that Vostok watch, that was one of his too, so again, big shout out, much appreciated. As one small side note, keep in mind that this watch is used, it has been worn, it does have some wear and some scratches on it. So it's not a brand new watch, but it's definitely in good enough condition to, do that thing that we do. So what I'm saying is, it's not perfect.
Slightly used.
Alright, let's get right into it. The packaging of the Orient Union feels solid and doesn't look bad either. It's a hard box wrapped in leather or vinyl or rubber, something like that, with a metal plate on top with the Orient name and logo printed on it. Inside the box, the watch is strapped to a cushion, and under that you have the user manual and guarantee, which are both almost impossible to get out because they're the exact width of the box. Overall, it's a moderately boring but solid presentation. On to the watch, and we'll start with what you can't see first. The movement in the Union is an automatic self-winding mechanical movement, fully automatic, no hand winding option. It's a 21 joule Orient movement, which according to every article I can find online, claims that it's actually an in-house movement. Now it does say that it's based on an old Seiko mechanical movement, but at the end of the day, it's still an in-house movement.
You heard it here.
It operates on a standard frequency, 6 ticks per second, and the look of the second hand and movement overall is actually quite good. I've also experienced a really good rate of accuracy with this watch, about +8 or 9 seconds per day, so definitely a decent movement. The case of the Union is stainless steel with polished bezels, sides and back, with brushed finishing on the top to the lugs. The measurements are 40 millimeters in diameter, 46 millimeters lug to lug, and about 11 millimeters thick, despite the claimed, I think, 9.5 millimeters thick it said online. It's more like 11. Very standard proportions that work for just about any wrist size. The look of the finishing on this watch is average. Not the best I've seen, but not shabby either, somewhere in between. The case back is a screw down type with some information about the watch lightly engraved in it, including a water resistance spec which is rated at 50 meters. Is it 50 meters water resistant? I haven't gotten it wet because I don't own it, so we're just gonna have to take their word for it.
But you don't have to take my word for it.
The bracelet is a 5-link design with a mix of brushed and polished stainless steel links, measuring 22 millimeters at the lugs, tapering down to around 20 millimeters by the clasp. The thickness comes in at a respectable and solid feeling 3 millimeters. The clasp is a push-button deployant clasp with the Orient name and logo lightly engraved in it, and fine adjusters built in for small tweaks to the bracelet size, which for me personally came in handy. The clasp works great, and the bracelet has a good enough weight to it to keep the watch balanced on the wrist. The 5-link style also gives the bracelet a little bit more lateral flex than your standard 3-link design, which makes it work with the contours of the wrist, like for me going over this bone here, for example, very well. Now let's talk about the dial and functions. Under the hardened mineral crystal, you have a decently textured light silver dial, which at some angles sometimes looks white. Really good, tall, applied polished hour markers, polished sword-style hour and minute hands with a polished stick-style second hand, polished lips around the date window at 6 o'clock and the day window at 12 o'clock, one of the thinnest applied logos I've ever seen in my life under the day indicator, with printed text under that reading Orient Automatic, and a tiny printed text above the date indicator that says water resist. Now let me stop right here and dive into things that I don't like about this dial, starting with that last line of printed text.
Oh shit!
Personally, I don't think that the dial of a watch needs to state that the watch is water resistant at all, but if the company feels the need to do that, at least add the ANT at the end so it says water resistant. Water resist? Really? Then we have the date window. Some watch brands refer to this style of date window as a wide date window. Well, to me, it's an unnecessary why the fuck am I looking at 3 dates window. Yes, I understand that today's date is in the center, but I'd rather look down and see a 12 in a small box than look down and see that it's the 11th, 12th, 13th today. And last but not least, we have the hands. The hands are my least favorite part of this watch. They're nice hands.
Toned hands.
The shape works on this dial and the polish looks great, but all 3 of these hands are too short. First of all, the second hand and the minute hand are exactly the same length. I don't know why, but I don't like it. Then you have a clean, finely done minute track at the outer edge of this dial, but you need a bus to get from where the minute hand ends to where the minute track is. And obviously the same with the second hand, being that it's the same damn length. Then the hour hand falls short in about the same distance from the hour markers, despite the fact that the hour markers on this dial are big long mofos. Now, does that affect reading the time accurately on this watch? No, not at all. Don't get me wrong. It definitely is easy to read the time. It's quick to read the time. That's not an issue at all. For me, it's just an aesthetic thing. Every time I look down at this watch, I feel like they put hands from a different watch into a case that's too big. The watch does have loom, a small dot above each hour marker, and a generous triangle of loom inside the minute and hour hands. The loom is okay, it works. It's not incredible, but this is more of a casual dress watch, not a sport watch or a dive watch. It works well enough that if you go from a bright space into a dark space, you can read the time, and that's all you really need from any loom if it's not a dive watch. So overall, minus the midget hands, I do like this watch. It works well, it's reliable, it has very legible day and date indicators, which I actually do find very convenient at work. It also feels good on the wrist, and it looks good with almost anything I wear it with, so overall, I'd say I'm happy with it. I'd say what it lacks overall is just some kind of wow factor. There's nothing unique about this watch, nothing that really stands out as interesting or special. There's no real magic to it, but to be fair, I mean, that's, I guess, the majority of watches on the market, so I guess I can't be too hard on the Union for lacking pizzazz.
Pizzazz! Pizzazz!
And for the money, I'd say this is a hell of a watch. The list price on the Orient Union is $275, but you could buy them online for about $139.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
And for a comfortable, well-made mechanical automatic watch with handsome styling and usable features, I'd say that's a steal. If I had to rate this watch on a scale from 1 to 10 Mike Tysons, I would give it 7.5 Mike Tysons. If you have this watch, or if you have any Orient watch, or if you just have an opinion about this review or anything in general, leave a comment. Always like to hear from all of you, and I'll see you next time.